This week, it's the CISO Holiday Party 2025. Leadership lessons from the year that was. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. This podcast is supported by AutoRabbit. You trust Salesforce to power your business, but even the best systems have blind spots. Hidden risk like over-permissioned users, untested code, and missing backups can quietly slip through the cracks. AutoRabbit closes those gaps. Their DevSecOps platform brings automation, governance, and security together so you can build fast and stay protected. Because speed means nothing if you can't trust what you deliver. Visit securityweekly.com/AutoRabbit to learn more. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive Security, the first cybersecurity company backed by OpenAI. AI has fundamentally reshaped the threat landscape. Today, the greatest risk isn't someone breaking into your systems, it's someone breaking into your trust. Deepfake voices joining your video calls. AI-crafted phishing emails that perfectly mimic your executives. Even synthetic job applicants entering through the front door. Adaptive Security is designed to counter these new realities. The company delivers real-time attack simulations that show security teams exactly what modern AI-driven threats look and sound like, and prepares them to respond effectively. Learn more at securityweekly.com/adaptive. Ransomware. Supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your business. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots. Just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 427, recorded December 22nd, 2025. It's almost Christmas, so we're going to do our holiday party. I am your host, Matt Alderman. Joining me for this holiday special are my co-hosts. First, Mr. Jason Albuquerque. What a crazy week of football, dude.
What? Hey, listen, after last night's game, the Pats, man, we locked in the playoffs against the Ravens. We pulled it out in the fourth quarter. And I think at this point, with the Broncos loss to the Jags, I think we're at the top of the AFC. Amazing. I love it. Who would have thought last year, right, for the Patriots?
Yeah, exactly. But then some crazy games, like the finish of the Bears game against the Packers, the end of the Detroit game against the Steelers. We're hoping Summer joins us here.
That Steelers game was great.
Oh, it's crazy ending. Yeah, it's crazy endings. Yeah.
Very good football.
Yes, it was. Also joining for the holiday special, Josh Marpet. Josh, welcome. Hey. Always a pleasure to have you on BSW.
And always a pleasure to be here on Business Security Weekly. It's a great show, man. Great show, Matt. Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, Ben's out. Ben had a conflict this week. Like I said, we think Summer's going to join us. We'll see. But first, gentlemen, before we start, it is the holidays. I miss the Rhode Island coming into studio and getting everybody together. So we have to do this remote. Cheers. Yeah, I can't smoke in the house. Otherwise, I'd have a cigar in my hand.
Me too.
Oh, gosh. All right. So let's get into this year's. Look, this show has been focused from its very beginnings around a couple themes, right? The business side of security, which we talk about a lot, but also leadership and communication. And our second segment is dedicated to that. Every single week, we talk different leadership and communications articles. And, what I wanted to do is just kind of do a little bit of a roundtable discussion around what are some of the big leadership areas we saw in 25? What are some of the lessons we learned? Kind of where are we as an industry, right? We're going to do a say easy, do hard segment on an interesting topic around burnout. But, Jason, let's start with you a little bit. Sure. What was 25 like for you from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, so 25, there's a lot of interesting dynamics happening over the course of 2025. And honestly, I found it that I was saying very often, Business Security Weekly has a crystal ball. There are things that we've talked about for years at this point, years, that are finally hitting the media, hitting the news, hitting articles. They're finally catching up to us, Matt. It's amazing, right? So things along the lines of boardroom literacy when it comes to cybersecurity, and then bringing the conversations to the table. We've been talking about that for years. The premium of soft skills when it comes to hiring across the board, not just in a leadership position, but hiring to your middle managers, to your entry-level folks, talking about the soft skills, because we all provide a service out to the organization or our clients. We're all having conversations throughout the organization. So, leading with those soft skills, continuous learning, where we're constantly talking about sharpening the knife. These are topics that I'm hearing a ton about in 2025 that are leadership centric, communication centric, not just cybersecurity centric. And it's amazing. It's like they listen to the show.
Like we've seen articles come that are touch on these topics, and then we just want a little more meat. Jason, how much of this do you think is based off of kind of the environment we're in? Like, if we look at the last couple of years from an economic perspective, right? A little pressure on the economy side, budgets, resources, etc.
Sure.
Does that create an environment where, from a leadership perspective, we have to talk about security in a different way? We have to justify budgets, hiring, etc. And therefore these soft skills need to come through to be able to have those conversations to justify spend and stuff?
So we talk about root cause in cybersecurity a lot, right? And for me, root cause is follow the money. Because at the end of the day, the boards are hearing about revenue hits because of vendor risk assessments that they may not pass or can't pass, regulatory pressures, legal pressures, privacy pressures, breach. If they went through a breach, the pressures on the brand. Boards are realizing that not only is it going to hit them from a bottom line and a revenue perspective, but it could also hit them from a personal liability perspective.
Yeah.
So now the boards are bringing it to the table. But guess what? If there's a gap in communication, if a CISO is speaking technical jargon, the board's not going to understand. The conversations will get dismissed. Executive teams and CEOs will dismiss the conversation or look to someone who can translate, right? So the pressure on the CISO now is, I need to adapt. I need to speak the language of the business because I'm getting asked these questions.
Yeah.
Follow the money. The money is the revenue. The money is the pressure. It's legal. Right?
It is. We saw some regulatory change, in late 23 into 24 that we thought was going to drive some of this. That not as much, which I thought was interesting, right? We saw some really interesting kind of cases come out of some of the SEC regulatory stuff. I mean, a lot of that's been weakened and kind of removed. We thought that was going to be a catalyst for some of this, but it did, but then it didn't, right? And so the money side of this, I still think is where this happens, because as a CISO, as a cybersecurity leader, how do I justify spending $1 million in AI or $1 million in cybersecurity? Because I'll tell you that's some of the decisions organizations have to make is, if I spend $1 million over here in AI, what can that do for my efficiency gains? And how can I use that to grow revenue and all this other stuff? Where the thought has been, if I go spend $1 million in cybersecurity, what's my return on investment over there? Right? Do I get a return on investment?
Here's the thing, though. The proactive CISO is going to take that conversation and influence. And they're going to say, yes, let's spend $1 million for AI, but X% of that needs to be focused on cybersecurity to enable AI, to enable the business. Up front, that's what the proactive CISO is going to say. Yes, here's how we get there. Right?
Oh, there's so much I can say about that.
Josh, go for it, man. Let's go.
Okay, so Jason, I agree with you 100%. Let's be clear on this. Yeah. But I want to expand on that a bit, because from my point of view, the changes in the past year There have been technological changes, mostly on the malicious side. There's been a lot of changes on the malicious side of technology. The usage of AI for malicious actions is out of this world, over the top. But the other changes are, like you said, do I spend $1 million on AI? Do I spend $1 million on security? And the smartest CISOs I've been seeing are going, no, spend $1 million on AI, because I need $500,000 of AI tools for security.
Sure. Yeah, that's the other side
And
of it
so
as well.
it's not that I want to devote so much percentage of that to the security of the company. I want to use some of that as an AI spend, because then you'll see return on investment, CEO, and they go, oh, really? I'll show the investors a return on investment by not spending more money on headcount. This is part of what's going on with the slowing job market, is because the CISOs and the CEOs and the CFOs are all saying, use the AI money not just to produce a return on investment, an increase in productivity and more revenue, but also use it to slow headcount growth. And so with that, the job market has become a pile of crap, let's be honest. But the usage of AI has changed from niche and very, very, very tiny little uses to almost too much. At this point, I make jokes about AI is not FM. M stands for magic and F stands for exactly what you think it does. And it's not pixie dust that you sprinkle over things. But if you have a solid use case and a solid understanding of what it can and cannot do, AI is amazing stuff. But with terms of the changes over this past year, I see that the translation ability for CISOs is what is important. Can you speak business? Can you put risk into a dollar value and a time frame? If you can do those things, budget is magically going to appear. If you can't do those things, and this is exactly what you said, Jason, just to be clear, okay? We're on exactly the same page. I'm just digging a little deeper. If you can't do those things, if you can't tell me how much and when it's going to matter to me that this problem, this threat, this vulnerability, this risk, whatever, is going to bloody well happen, then I'm not going to bother listening to you. And if you spout jargon, just like you said, if you spout jargon and you don't have cybersecurity expertise at the board level, either to translate for you or you to work with them to translate for the rest of the board members, you're toast. You're toast as a CISO. Go back and pick up your VP badge, please, and turn in your C-suite badge.
So, Josh, I have multiple pieces there. Let's start with the board discussion for a second, because one of the big things we've talked that people thought was going to happen was more cybersecurity expertise on the board. We've actually covered articles on the show that says there's actually more AI knowledge on the board than there is actually cybersecurity knowledge on the board, right? So it's interesting when you think about this from a business revenue kind of financial perspective, is the boards are putting AI expertise they're putting that expertise on the boards before they're putting cybersecurity expertise on the board. So doesn't that make some of this? Yeah.
There's a misapprehension there. There's a traditional thought that cybersecurity is a cost center, and it is, okay, to a certain extent. But if handled properly, it is a revenue center. It is a marketing information center at the very least. But if you don't handle it properly, if you're doing the same thing you've been doing for 20 years, then cybersecurity and IT are just simply cost centers. And remember, they're big cost centers. IT is about 10% of your entire average, your ARR and the annual running revenue. So like 10% of every dollar that comes in goes to IT. About 4% of every dollar that comes in, 4 to 6% goes to security. Okay. So yeah, that's a lot of money. That's a huge cost center. But if you think of it as, we protect your data, customers, we protect your information, we protect your sales, your credit card number, your vital data. And do people care about that? But can you use it as a marketing tactic? Absolutely. And it's being regulated to be that way. So the converse to that is what you said about what we're bringing AI expertise on the board. That's because that's a revenue center to them.
Exactly.
Revenue centers, they will bring on the board in a heartbeat. Cost centers, they don't even want to talk about.
If you're enabling the business to move forward from a revenue perspective and grow from a revenue perspective, you're going to get priority. And Matt, we've talked about this all the time, right? The long-standing gig that I had as a CISO for a $500 million IT services organization. What did I do to change the dynamic? I basically had a field added into Salesforce, and my team was able to tag security to every single opportunity that was sold in that organization, that we went through a vendor risk assessment, a security assessment, a third-party assessment with clients. We helped drive revenue because they would have never closed those deals if we didn't pass the muster from a security perspective. And we were enabling tens of millions of dollars of revenue a quarter for that organization, right? 14 million, 22 million. We were enabling that level of revenue. So guess
Jason,
what? We weren't anymore a cost center.
And it was always there. You just exposed that it mattered to some clients it doesn't matter to. Let's be clear, okay? But to the clients that it mattered to, you opened up their eyes to the idea that exposing this to a client, say, hey, client, do you care about security? Oh my God, yes. Fantastic. We do security. Oh, wow. You just closed the deal. You helped them close a deal. You helped them solidify a deal, whatever level you did to that. But if they never look for that, they never look for, hey, client, do you potentially, or prospect rather, do you care about security? If they say no, okay, what'd you lose? 30 seconds. If they say yes, you gain that foothold into their psyche.
And you know you're winning the game, Josh and Matt, you know you're winning the game when the sales team knocks on your door and says, can you join this client call? Help us close the deal. That's when you're winning.
Yeah. And that's when you convert it from a cost center to a revenue generation center.
Exactly.
And that's, by the way, to the companies that do that, that's when they're going to, and some of them do, ask for cybersecurity expertise at the board level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Period. That's it.
So that's just one example as how you can take what's typically historically considered a cost center and show that you enable the business, show that you drive revenue. One example.
Now, I'm going to point out that this is now becoming mandatory because of the regulatory regimes that are coming down there's now standards frameworks in the UAE, in Australia, in, good Lord, in Japan, even in China, in the EU, in the US, in various verticals and critical infrastructure niches of you must have a continuous security. You must have continuous vendor risk. You must understand, and this is the crux of it, you must understand the risk you are placing your customers' data and your data and potentially government data or whomever. And if you don't understand that risk, we're not going to allow you to hold that data. And you know what that means? That means that you're required to do it. That's mandate. And that means that your customers are going to start going, hey, are you doing this thing? Because we're required to do it. So I need you to be required to do it too. And I have a prospect that cares about security. Maybe because they're required to. I don't care. It works.
Right. So this is where my second point was, right? Measuring risk. We've historically done this in a horrible, horrible way, right? And so, but we've seen standards out there that are also really, really complex and difficult to implement.
Yep.
So one of the challenges that we've seen in all these articles we cover, right? Yes, we know we need to be talking the language of the business. To me, that's dollars. It's money, right?
Yeah.
However,
absolutely.
How do you do that in an easy way? How do you, what's the model? What's the metrics? What are the things that leaders should be focused on in this space in order to start talking about security from a dollar impact perspective? And this is where I've seen the biggest struggle, Josh. Look, I'm in the space. You do work in this space. I still see a lot of crap out there. Hey, my risk score is 92. What the hell is a 92? Like, it doesn't matter. It's completely meaningless, right? And if we're going to have real conversations with our executive team and the board, we've got to figure out how to get over this risk chasm that we've been around for a long time.
I've got a whole rant on this, but Jason, if you want to go first.
No, I believe me, I do too, because here's the thing, guys. The mistake that we make is we walk into the door thinking we know everything and we know. Here's the problem. There is someone within the organization that's already dedicated to managing financial risk
CFO.
for the business, the CFO. Ding, 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 ding. One of the best things I've ever done over the course of my career is sit down with the CFO and measure risk together. Yes, am I bringing frameworks to the table? Yes, am I bringing best practice to the table? But I'm integrating into their plan, the way they speak to the board about it, the way they report to the board about it. I'm integrating into the business, because the last thing you want is two divergent conversations, one from a CFO, one from a CISO, because guess who they're going to believe and guess who they're going to go with? Not
CFO.
the CISO.
End of story. The CFO, because that's
End
where
of story.
their bonuses come from.
So there's
However,
a political aspect to this that you have to be okay and lose the ego and walk in the door and collaborate with the
Have you
CFO.
ever explained to a CFO how vendor risk management is done currently in most companies? And then they give you that look like, are you freaking kidding me?
Exactly.
You do it that way? That doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, I know.
Exactly.
And they go, what? You send out a questionnaire, they lie and they send it back. Yes.
Right.
And you depend on that to do your vendor risk management where all of our customer data gets enriched. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how you do your risk metrics? And they look at you like you're insane. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. How do you measure risk? And by the way we measure risk is inherently wrong. Okay? Because we measure risk in terms of what is the likelihood and what is the impact. Okay? That's fine. That's actually okay. That's not bad. If this risk gets realized, how bad is it going to be? Impact. And how possible is it to happen? And from that, we have this sort of fuzzy measurement of, will it happen to me this quarter, this year, this decade, this whatever. But it's fuzzy. It's really ugly fuzzy. Okay? Oh, it's really likely to happen. So it could happen this year. Could happen 6 years from now. Who knows? Okay. But it's we can sort of correlate. And then if you want to get really specific in math and do all sorts of Monte Carlo simulations, you do the FAIR Institute piece, which is fantastic if you want to spend $120,000 on a risk measurement that's invalid 5 minutes after you finish.
Exactly right.
Okay.
It's way too complex, but yes. So we got to keep it somewhat simple, Josh, right?
We've got to get simpler. So we've got to get a little rougher. We've got to accept that there is a plus minus, a standard deviation or two in our risk metrics. And we've got to convert them to dollars. It's not just impact. Impact is actually fairly easily convertible to dollars. All right.
Right.
Because I can say it's going to shut us down. That's $1 million a minute. So if it shuts us down for an hour, it's $60 million. Okay. That's not that hard to do some dollar value from that. As long as you're okay with it being to the nearest 10,000, 100,000 million, whatever, that's fine. But the impact is the likelihood is the problem. How do I calculate what's going to happen and when it's going to happen and how much it's going to cost me? And the when, remember, there's a time value of money. I had to go learn from a lot of CFOs. Okay. So there's a time value of money. There's opportunity cost. There's all kinds of risks that we don't even think about in security. If I lose $1 million now, it means I'm giving up on that merger with that little company that was going to bring us $50 million in revenue, because that was the down payment or whatever. And so the opportunity cost is not the $1 million. It's the $75 million because I was going to improve their efficiency and get them up. Like, there's a huge opportunity cost risk there. So we've got to get better at not just understanding the dollar value of this specific risk if it's realized, but all the different types of risks that come off of that and when. I told you I had a rant about this, I swear. Yeah. There is an IEEE UL standard called 2933, if I remember correctly. And I'm speaking with one of the authors of it, Mitch Parker. He and I are talking a lot. He's a great guy. He used to be the head of Temple University Health System. Now he's out in Illinois. And he's going to yell at me because I don't remember, and I apologize, Mitch. But he's still the CISO of a health system, and he's amazing. And it is a risk quantification methodology that was designed for medical devices, but is scalable for anything. So we're actually working on scaling it up to quantify risk at a rougher level than FAIR, but much faster. So we're getting there. Give us some time. But the point is that if we don't have a how bad, and a when, boards aren't going to listen to us for shit.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. One of the things that FAIR did a pretty good job of is this concept of secondary loss or secondary impacts, right? Which is, it's not the event itself. It's all the other things tied to it. It's the environmental. It's the occupational. It's the regulatory. It's the
reputational, everything.
Right?
And, yep.
Those are all hanging off of that, right? And if you can come up with a model that you can model those with your primary to do it, that's one thing FAIR actually did well. On the impact side of the equation, they actually did right. It's the other side. It's the loss magnitude side's good. It's the loss frequency side that is the hardest part, right? It's just super crazy in how you do likelihoods. And I still think that's the biggest challenge. One of the things we did, Josh, so there is a historical loss database out there, and we actually pull some of the historic data out of it, and kind of like an actuarial approach. The problem is though it's at a higher level, so it's not as granular as you need to eventually use it. It's great in a third party risk management where you're looking at the vendor as a whole. It's really good to go like, wait, based off who you are, your industry, that we know what historical losses actually happened over there. And so it's a great benchmark for TPRM kind of stuff. But when you get into the specifics in an organization, it doesn't get you granular enough. And now you're back into the weeds again, right?
And the problem is that in actuarial world, okay, which is why I had to study that too, because I had to deal with cyber insurance companies. Yeah, if you're in an automobile accident, you are more likely than someone who has not been in one to have another one. Okay, whether it's your fault or not, it doesn't matter. You are more likely to get in a second one. It's just this actuarial fact. Now, does it mean you're going to? No, you're just more likely. Okay.
Yep.
With cybersecurity, if you have a breach, are you more likely than someone who's never had a breach to have another one? Not necessarily, because some of these companies spend enough money going, oh crap, this is bad, we got to fix this. And they get amazingly good at this stuff. So they are now less likely to have a breach than any other given company, okay, or some subset of given companies. So we don't have enough actuarial data to do this properly. Now, I know we've gotten hooked in this what's changed in the past year on risk and communications, but it's a really cool topic. And we've mentioned vendor risk, but the real problem is everybody's value chain now is so crazy. I just did a class for some regulators on how to talk about the industries that they regulate, and they regulate institutions. I can't name it. I apologize. But I asked them, out of your institutions, how many third-party data sharing partners do they have? And they said, and there's like small, medium, and large ones. Okay, just we'll do t-shirt sizing. And they said the small ones have 50 partners, 50 vendors that share data with them. The large ones, thousands. Now, you tell me, in the supply chain risk world that we live in today, how many of those companies are going to get whacked from some kind of supply chain risk because the vendors got a questionnaire, lied, and sent it back?
Yeah.
It is insane. And I'll shut up, Jason, please.
No, and Josh, I mean, honestly, it's let's take that to the next level, because now it's the supply chain island hopping, fourth party risk, fifth party risk. How many organizations got hacked? How many organizations got hacked because of their third party APIs, and now their customers were at risk? Right?
Now add AI into that. Now add AI and AI brokers into that.
And model context protocol.
Yeah, so I mean,
and MCP servers everywhere.
I'll tell you, that was heavy in 2025, was the supply chain island hopping. You want to talk about fourth party vendor risk, fifth party vendor risk? That was hot in 2025.
Yeah, we saw a huge resurgence of that. Yeah, this year.
Yeah, how many companies don't realize that their AI? Oh, we just bought into this AI company and this service they provide, and it's awesome. And it's like, yeah, they have a front end and like 3 queries, 3 prompts, but they're actually running Anthropic through another company. So they're like the third, fourth, and fifth party.
Exactly.
I call it the NTH, the nth party problem. It's that bad.
Every AI workflow in your enterprise touches sensitive data. Customer names, email addresses, financial records. One wrong move and you're facing a compliance nightmare. Enter Area, the enterprise AI orchestration and security platform built to protect what matters most. With Area, you don't have to compromise between speed and innovation or security and governance. Quickly deploy AI without cutting corners on compliance. Give your teams the confidence to adapt AI with Area. Stop gambling with your most sensitive information. Visit securityweekly.com/area to see it in action. That's securityweekly.com/AIRIA.
Modern attacks don't just hit devices, they target your users to gain access to Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace. And when those platforms go down, it's not just email, it's your entire business. That's why there's Kaseya 365 User, one unified platform that protects your users and SaaS applications. Phishing, credential leaks, insider risks, it stops them all. Learn more and schedule a demo at securityweekly.com/K365. All right, so that leads me to point number 3, Josh, from your opening statement. AI. AI, and where are we actually getting efficiency right? So let's think about this for a second. We've seen a lot of hype around artificial intelligence. You said, hey, yeah, I want to use $500,000 in the AI budget to get my own tools to help me out to drive that. What's working and what's not working from a leadership perspective, right? There's a lot of hype around these different AIs, but I see mixed results. I'm building some of this stuff. I've seen other tools. Like, you could waste $500,000 and not get much out of it, right? So
2 seconds.
Exactly. So what are leaders actually using that's actually giving them value to continue those conversations and to continue those budgets? Because I think that's the other blind spot for leaders right now is what's real and what's not real.
Okay. So I think we need to go back a step. And the step is that AI is incredibly useful for certain very specific things. There's something that I learned actually talking to Sunil Yu, I believe it was, who's a brilliant, brilliant guy. And he taught me about the data, information, knowledge, and wisdom pyramid. Okay. And it's literally, it's a pyramid, and it's data at the bottom, then information, and then knowledge, and then wisdom. And we've been going through this pyramid as time goes on. Data was databases, and you have SQL queries. Information is what you have search engines. It's stuff that's collated rather from data, and you have search engines to find it. Knowledge is the meta of all the search engine queries, and that's what we use LLMs to help me sift through and find the nuggets of really good information, the diamonds in the rough. But wisdom is, how do I use this information? And that's what humans do between their ears. Okay?
Yep.
And if you think of this properly, using an LLM in that fashion is valid. I can use an LLM to collate, to correlate, and to contextualize. This is something I came up with and I love it. LLMs are great at collation of data, correlation of data, what's an anomaly, what's weird about this data, what's interesting about this data, and even contextualization. Enrich it. Tell me what's going on here. Okay? But it can't tell you why. It can't causate. And that's what humans are supposed to do. We're supposed to be the ones going, this is why that's happening. The LLM picks out the weirdness, contextualizes it so I have a basis of understanding, and then I go, oh, this is why. Oh, cool, now we can act on it. If you have LLMs that are done in that fashion, with that mindset, to make it easier for humans to understand what's going on and to give the humans the opportunity to explain it back to the LLM and to the people around them, beautiful. Okay? If you try to use an LLM to answer those questions, failure. So you want to replace a seam with an LLM? I mean, it's a correlation engine. It's also a massively parallel log analysis engine. Some of that an LLM can do very well. But all it can do is point out the anomalies, the weirdnesses, and the relationships, and then you have to have a human tell it why.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the risk over 2025 that I've seen when it comes to AI in the business, I just want to take a step back. You know what it is? It's CEOs and boards who come to the table and say, hey, CIO, I need AI implemented in our organization because the media says or the board says it's awesome. So what do? They run to the table and they say, what's the quickest way I can get AI enabled in my organization? Oh, there's this thing called Copilot. Oh my God, we're already licensed for it? Awesome. Let's flip that sucker on, right? For the entire business. Thousands of people now with Copilot at their fingertips. When we sit in front of a CIO or a CISO and say, before you flip that switch, let me show you something. And then we show them with simple prompts how we're going through and we're finding the top 10 paid people in the organization. We're finding information about their board of directors. We're finding financial information as a normal user within the organization, because guess what they didn't do? Say easy, do hard item. Data classification, data protection, DLP, all the things we should have been doing 15 years ago, 20 years ago that are now biting us.
Wait. You need an inventory of your information and access control lists that are actually locked down?
And you need to classify it on what the Copilot can gain access to and not? Wait, there's access controls in... Oh, wait.
Why do I need these data flow diagrams? What are you talking about, man?
The foundation of protecting the data estate never happened, and all of these organizations are at huge risk for privacy issues, data leakage issues, because guess what they're doing? They're flipping the switch. They're turning it on, and they didn't do any of the foundational security up front, the hard work.
M365 Copilot.
seeing.
M365 Copilot, the greatest insider threat vector known to mankind.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you that.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Do it
Because
right.
companies don't lock it down. They don't lock down their
Exactly.
information. They don't classify their information. They don't even know where it is. And like, let's give everybody access to all sorts of things.
Exactly.
that
You
they
got it.
shouldn't have access to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
See, this is where I've struggled on. So as someone who builds product in my daily life, I look at use cases. Where can AI actually solve problems in a way that I can control it, but I can get value out of it? It's not turning on the co-pilots of the world. It's looking at very specific use cases, right? So here's some examples, which I think are important for people to realize, right? So talk about third-party vendor risk management, right? Problem we've all faced. I used to run a program over 20 years ago for one of the top 10 banks. Like, I know this use space, right? What was the first thing you did when you sent the questionnaire to the vendor? The vendor would send you back, hey, here's my SAS 70. I just dated myself. We call them SOC 2s now, right? That's what they used to do. They would send me their SAS 70 report. They would send me their policy document, right? I don't want to analyze that as a human. No, just answer my questionnaire. Now, what if I could use AI to allow the vendor to upload those documents? Let the LLM extract that data out and go, wait a minute. Based off your documentation that you gave me, here's all the answers I've extracted, and here's the gap in the answers I need. You just streamline the vendor review process by a factor of probably
God
2.
knows how much.
Maybe 3.
No, much more than 2 or
Maybe
3. Much more.
But now what you have is using that data to actually answer this stuff, fill in the gaps, boom, your vendor review process is done. That's one use case, right?
And to be honest with you, now you can leverage an agent to take that information, send it back to the vendor with clarification questions.
Yes.
Right? I mean, at the end of it, if you do it right, it literally can take the entire process. Obviously, if I were sitting in that seat, I want some level of human review to make sure the things going out the door are solid. But at the end of the day, you can automate the entire process with AI.
Yes.
Well, again, you can automate it up to the point where the human says, this is a problem.
Exactly.
Right.
But just automating that aspect of it, let the vendor upload whatever documents they want. I don't care.
Let it analyze everything. Let them review it. Let them respond to it and then submit it. Now, let's take the reverse of that, right? So that's one side of the coin. Let's take the other side of the coin. I receive a vendor review. How can I use AI?
You get the questionnaire.
I get the questionnaire. Now, how can I use AI? I know my control environment.
Mm-hmm.
How can I use AI to now say, well, based off this vendor questionnaire, these are my controls. Let it do the opposite, which is answer that assessment, allow me to review it, fill in the gaps, and then send it back. So the concept of the trust center that's come up as part of the chief trust officer role and responsibility we've covered on this show, you could automate a huge portion of those vendor reviews. Jason, we talked earlier about tying security to that, right? If security is constantly keeping the control environment up to date, when those questionnaires come in, not only is security providing value from a revenue perspective, we can also streamline the process to send those responses back faster, which is revenue enabling. Faster revenue enabling.
Operational efficiencies, right?
Sales friction. You're removing sales friction.
Close the deal, but you're realizing operational efficiencies. You don't have to hire more humans to get it done.
Exactly. Yeah. These are real life use cases where I see AI driving some value. And there's others out there. But the problem is, unless you understand the use case and how AI is being used, I don't know that just because I have AI, just because I have Copilot turned on, does that really mean I'm getting the efficiencies? And that's what I think leadership needs to look at. They got to look at its usage in very specific use cases and figure out if it's actually moving the needle for them.
The knee-jerk implementation that I just talked about earlier actually adds more risk than benefit to the organization holistically, because what are the end users going to use it for? What will the malactors use it for once they get access to it, right? That's the question.
We're seeing a lot of confusion as well, because companies will buy AI, like they'll buy Copilot. I want 10,000 seats of Copilot.
Yep.
And then their budget for that is whatever ungodly amount, 1.5 million or something per year. And then they're like, oh, let's fire 15 people. And all of a sudden their bottom line goes up.
Yeah.
And they go, Copilot was an amazing revenue enhancer. Let's get more.
Right. And then they look at the adoption rate of Copilot, and it's like 10% of the organizations using it.
No, it's even less. Honestly,
Right, probably.
Well, Microsoft fired all of their Copilot sales reps.
Yeah.
And they're not selling it as much anymore. Like, it's there if you want it, but they're not going to sell it to you
Yeah.
because there's so little adoption of that damn stuff, which is good. I'm fine with that. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not dissing on Microsoft. Copilot's actually very well done.
Yeah.
It's brilliant for doing PowerPoints and Word. Like, for the uses that it's validly legitimate for, it's actually pretty good. Okay. But the way they sold it and the problems with it were just legendarily bad.
Yeah. And then organizations who are implementing it don't secure their data.
Gee, well, I got to tell you, I don't think it's just the organizations implementing it. I think it's most of the organizations,
Yeah.
period. But
I was in New York last week, and when I'm on the plane, I watch CNBC. I keep up on the financial news, and this is Wednesday morning, last Wednesday. Jim Cramer's on, I think it's Squawk on the Street, and Cramer was going off on this AI bubble to kind of round out this note. And he said, we used to do these circular crazy deals during the dot-com bubble. And he said, you're seeing the same thing in AI. You see Amazon doing $10 billion deals with OpenAI, and in return, they're buying their chips and this, that. He said, we're doing the same crap we did back in 2000 to prop this up, because I don't think enough organizations are extracting real value out of AI holistically. And they're trying to prop this bubble up in the interim. But as a leader, you have to understand this stuff and understand and how to cut through the hype of AI and really figure out how to use it to your benefit. Otherwise, you're the executive holding the bag when the market just collapses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
here's the last piece I'm going to put on this one, is that tokens right now, which is what AI uses to measure your usage, are actually at a loss. They're sold at a loss to you. Okay. If they're sold at a loss to you now, and I mean, it's like pets.com back from the .com era, we'll lose money on every transaction, but make it up in volume. No, they're sold at a loss to you. So if they're sold at a loss, what's going to happen? Well, eventually they're going to raise the prices to start making a profit, because they can't run on venture capital forever, which means their job is to get you addicted to using it and then make it so you can't live without it, and then raise the price. So it's effectively the drug dealer model.
Yep.
So eventually your use of AI is going to cost you 10 to 20 times what it costs you now, minimally 10 to 20 times. Is it really that efficiency?
I want to switch topics just for a second. It's a leadership roundtable segment, so we can. One of the things we saw emerging this year, Jason, we interviewed Jeff Pollard from Forrester's on the Chief Trust Officer and in this evolution of trust and the impacts on the CISO. Trust starts with transparency. We talk about this a lot on the show. I'm curious what you guys see from that, right? Like, internally, we have a very transparent organization. It's something I believe in, for the good and for the bad, by the way, right? In a startup world, transparency can be good and it can also be bad, because sometimes it's not always rosy on the other side. However, it has allowed us to build a level of trust across our exec team in order to really get the stuff done we need to get done. Right. If we say it and we do it and we all go after it, we're all aligned and we go. I still see that being a big challenge in other areas across the board. We talk about it a lot. Are we going to see a shift in more transparency, more trust, or do we still struggle with this in the cybersecurity space?
I honestly think it's going to continue to be a struggle, because it's all culture dependent, right? And if the culture of your organization is built upon the foundation of what every relationship needs to have, every partnership needs to have, is trust. We talk about this on the show all the time. It's the foundation of every strong relationship is trust. It has to be. But you're going to have cultures who aren't going to operate that way. Will they survive? I don't know. But at the end of the day, my philosophy is, yes, you have to build trust. You have to build those relationships. You have to be transparent. Oh, that's the strength. I think we're still going to struggle with it, though, because I don't know if cultures will allow for it going into 2026.
Yeah, I'm wondering how, maybe we'll do this on the Say Easy Do Hard segment a little bit from a culture perspective, but how do we build a better culture? And again, maybe the CISO can't do it. I mean, he could do it maybe, or she can do it with their teams. But again, walking into an organization that has a very closed negative culture, like, I don't know that there's much you can do as a leader to change
again,
it.
we talk about it a lot. It's the alignment of your values with the culture of the organization you work for.
Yeah.
And if your values are transparency and trust, but the organization you work for are not, maybe that's not an organization you need to be working for.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's an organization you probably won't be working for because they'll scapegoat you out the door the first time there's a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's true. We've seen that for sure. Yeah.
So it's that alignment, right? It's your values aligned with the organization you work for. And if there's a misalignment, there needs to be a change.
Yeah.
And
Work
I'd much
somewhere
rather
you
have it
wanna
be
work.
a proactive change that I can, that I have a choice on versus being a scapegoat.
Your job title is CISO. You're the designated scapegoat. That's your actual job title. Come on, man. Get with it. It's interesting, but I've been up for I was voted on at one point for a membership for the board of a nonprofit organization, and they wanted me to run communications for them. And they said, "What would your strategy be?" And I said, "Openness, honesty, and transparency." And I didn't get voted on.
Yeah.
And I was told that was why.
For the organization. Yeah.
And I went, you know what? Works for me. I'm good with that.
The answer to that is thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Thanks, but no thanks, right? It's like, thanks, but no thanks. Because I mean, you would just go through so many conflicts, probably on a regular basis. And this will lead, and this will lead into our conversation, I think, in the Say Easy Do Hard segment we're going to pre-record for next week this is where some of the stress comes from as a leader.
Right.
When your value alignment, Jason, as you said, is not there. Like, is it really worth the stress and the aggravation? But then on the flip side, finding that right place to go is not easy either. Look, I know Ben, you went through a lot of transition this year. Unfortunately, he's not on this segment, but Ben went through a lot this year, right? Transitioning and out in the market. It's not easy to find some of these right aligned jobs out there. And it's kind of a shame a little bit. That's why I think we see so many CISOs going into fractional work and some of the other things because there's just not alignment there.
Right. And I'll tell you, there's no heavier burden in the professional life to bear than when your values are being compromised on the day. Yeah. Right. And when there's that pressure, that's a heavy burden to bear. It's constant. It's every minute of every workday that you're thinking about that. And you're forced to make decisions that you don't feel right about. You're in an organization that's making decisions that you don't feel okay about. That's a heavy burden.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that'll lead to burnout.
It's bad enough when you have to deal with the pressures of the job, when things go well, right? Like in my job, things go well on a regular basis, but there's still a lot of stress, right? And then you add that burden on top, and then you got to take that home at night. Like that's just a hard life.
It is. And I mean, it's like you said, it's a tough decision, keep a paycheck going.
Yeah. Make
sure you have a roof over your head, your family's fed, but you're compromising your values. That's tough.
Mm. Yeah. That is very true. Yeah.
Josh, Jason, any other topics you want to cover? I covered all the ones I wanted to cover.
Yeah, no, we went through them. I mean, these were all the hot topics for 2025, and hopefully going into 2026, we can move the needle. And hey, let's keep that crystal ball going because they're following us, guys. They're following us. Well,
that's good. Maybe this segment actually drives some interesting conversations in the first part of 2026. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas. And yes, we'll see you next week on Business Security Weekly.